Now that we have adjusted our flight read model, passenger read model and time place read model, we should go ahead and also do that with our BookDto. So go ahead and open up the DTOs folder and you can see the BookDto right here. So again, go ahead and copy it, right click, copy, go into your entities folder and paste it right here. Now open it up, BookDto, and first of all let's change the namespace to be namespace flights domain dot entities. Next, let's remove the data annotations and remove all of the attributes that we have used here when we talked about validation, so that we again only have the properties flight ID, passenger, email and number of seats. Now let's adjust the name, right click on BookDto, hit rename and now call it booking. Hit apply and on the right side check that the file name is now called booking.cs. Great, so now let's switch over to our flight controller and scroll a little bit down. Here you can see our list with BookDto called bookings, right? And we for sure have to do exactly the same like with our flights list. For storage, we should not use any DTOs. So let's go ahead and adjust the type to be of type booking. Do exactly the same thing for the initialization here, new list of type booking. And now let's scroll a little bit down until we come to the book action. If you cannot find it easily by scrolling, go ahead in that drop down and check for book. There we go. Now here you can see that we have bookings.addDTO throwing an error because bookings for sure is of type booking and DTO is for sure of type BookDto. So now inside of that add, we can create a new booking. You can for sure also do that inside of a variable outside of that add call, but we can go ahead and say, for example, like here, new booking inside there, DTO.flightID, DTO.passenger email, and DTO.number of seats. Great. So now we generate a new booking based on the DTO, and that new booking here, that instance, for sure will be able to get added to the bookings list that we have now just, switched over. Okay, now scroll again to the very top, and the list that we have created here, we will now prepare that for entity framework later on, so that we can easier switch. Just think about that. A flight can have bookings, right? So right now what we have here is we have flights and bookings. But later on we want to go ahead and connect those, two tables, so that we say, hey, a flight has a number of specific bookings, right? They are attached to them because a booking is always attached to a flight. Now select that list here, right click and simply cut it. Now go ahead into our new entity called flight, right exactly here, and then just go to the bottom of the record and add some curly braces, and inside of that record you're now gonna paste it, so simply Ctrl V, and instead of making it static private, which doesn't make sense anymore now, we make it public. So a flight record has a public list of bookings which are attached to them. Now let's switch back to our flight controller. Scroll again a little bit down until you come to the same point where we just stopped last time here. And he is trying for sure to add the new booking that we have just created to add it to the list, but the list is not existing anymore because now the list of the bookings of the flight are inside of the flight. So here in line 126 for me, you can see that Boolean value flight found. Go into the flights list and search for a flight with a specific ID and tell me if you found one. So instead of having that a Boolean, let's now switch it to be of data type flight. So simply hit rename, let's call it flight. And instead of using any, which is returning a bool, we go ahead and use single or default, which will return one value or for example null. So go ahead and find that one flight with that GUID where the DTO, where the flight ID is matching the DTO flight ID. So checking if the flight is false doesn't make sense anymore now. Let's check if it's null. If flight equals to null, return not found. Now instead of calling bookings.add, we now go ahead and call flight.bookings.add because the bookings list is now inside of the flight. And as you can see here, the flight is of type flight entity, so our entity, right? And inside that entity, we now got that list. So we simply find the flight and then go into the bookings of that flight and add a new booking to it. Awesome. Now let's start the application. Now let's search for flight. Let's book this one here. And I'm already registered, so I can simply go ahead and book now. So let me just book, for example, 5 seats, and my booking works. So this is fine. Inside of the console, see booking 5 passengers for the flight. So still working, that's very good. Now we need to do the same thing just one more time with our new passenger DTO. And afterwards, we have completely switched from DTO usage to entity usage.